In the quiet town of Sunbury, Pennsylvania, December nights were cold and silent, the kind that made the streets look empty and the air feel heavier than usual. On one such night, police discovered a horrifying scene. Inside a parked car, a man named Troy LaFerrara lay dead, stabbed more than 20 times. The killer wasn't who anyone expected. She was Miranda Barbour, a 19-year-old newlywed who had recently moved from Alaska with her husband, Elyett. To neighbors, she looked like an ordinary young woman, polite, soft-spoken, almost shy. No one would have guessed that beneath that calm smile was a darkness waiting to surface. Police quickly learned that Troy had met Miranda through a Craigslist ad. She had posted an innocent-sounding message, something about companionship, and Troy had replied. They agreed to meet in a parking lot, and what was supposed to be a simple meeting turned into a nightmare. When detectives brought Miranda in for questioning, she didn't cry, she didn't shake. She sat still, almost relaxed, and said, it was self-defense. She claimed Troy had tried to assault her, and she fought back. But as investigators looked closer, things didn't add up. There were too many stab wounds. Too much control in the attack. Too little fear in her story. And that calmness, that strange, almost cold composure, unnerved even the most seasoned officers. When they asked if her husband knew anything, Miranda smiled faintly. He helped me, she said. That one line changed everything. The image of a frightened young woman flipped into something far darker, a couple bound not by love, but by blood. And as detectives dug deeper, they would soon realize this was not just one murder, but the doorway into something far more disturbing. The interrogation room was silent, except for the faint hum of the camera recording every breath, every blink. Miranda Barbour sat across from detectives, her hands resting calmly on the table. They expected denials, excuses, maybe tears. But what came next left the entire department frozen. She leaned forward slightly and said in a flat, steady voice. I've killed more than one person. For a moment, no one spoke. The detectives exchanged quick, nervous glances, maybe they misheard her. But Miranda continued, her expression blank, almost detached. She claimed she wasn't just a killer, she was part of a satanic cult, one that had been active for years. She said she had taken part in more than 22 murders, starting when she was only 13 years old. According to Miranda, her initiation into the cult began in Alaska. She described meeting an older man who brought her into a world of ritual, control, and blood. Her first kill, she said, was a man who had tried to hurt her. The cult leader made her do it as a test of loyalty. From that moment, she claimed, she was never the same. Detectives listened, trying to decide if she was telling the truth or spinning an elaborate fantasy. Her tone didn't match her words, there was no guilt, no hesitation, just a quiet, eerie confidence. When asked about the victims, Miranda gave vague answers, scattered names, different states, half-remembered details. Some could be traced to real missing person cases, others had no record at all. Was she confessing to a trail of hidden murders across the country? Or was this just a disturbed young woman building a legend inside her own mind? The media went into a frenzy. Headlines called her the Craigslist devil, the teenage cult killer. But behind the sensational stories, investigators faced a haunting question: if even part of her story was true, how many families were still waiting for answers they'd never get? As the night ended, one thing was clear: Miranda Barbour wasn't just another suspect. She was an enigma. And in her quiet voice, detectives heard something far more dangerous than madness, they heard belief. Troy LaFerrara thought it was just another online meeting, a simple Craigslist ad offering friendship, maybe a bit of company on a cold November night in Pennsylvania. The ad was short, innocent sounding. The woman behind it called herself Miranda. She was young, polite, and seemed harmless. When Troy picked her up that night, he had no idea he was driving straight into a trap. Sitting beside him in the car, Miranda smiled, made small talk, and guided him to a quiet, dark road outside Sunbury. But what Troy didn't know was that Miranda's husband, Elyett, was hiding in the back seat, silent, waiting. According to Miranda's later confession, this wasn't a random act. It was planned, a ritual. She said she and Elyett wanted to kill someone who wouldn't be missed. When Troy made a move toward her, she gave a quiet signal. Elyett lunged from behind, wrapping a cord around Troy's neck, while Miranda pulled a knife from her coat. The struggle was short and brutal. In a frenzy, she stabbed him, once, twice, 20 times in total. The small car became a chamber of chaos, the sound of the blade cutting through the silence, the faint smell of blood filling the air. And then, just like that, it was over. Elyett pushed the door open, dragged Troy's body out, and left it by the roadside. They drove off calmly, wiping down the seats, throwing away the knife and gloves. Then, in one of the coldest details of the case, they went out for dinner, eating and laughing as if nothing had happened. By morning, Troy's body was found. The police quickly traced his last calls and text messages, which led straight to a Craigslist ad. From there, they followed digital breadcrumbs, login details, phone pings, and a connection to Miranda's account. Within days, detectives had a name, an address, and a face. When officers knocked on Miranda and Elliot's door, they found the young couple calm, almost too calm. Miranda spoke politely, smiled occasionally, and said she didn't know any Troy. But the evidence told a different story. What began as a simple Craigslist meeting had turned into something much darker, a calculated killing carried out by two people who claimed they were serving a higher purpose. Behind Miranda's quiet eyes and gentle tone, investigators began to see what she truly was, not a victim of her past, but a predator hiding behind innocence. When Miranda Barbour first confessed to killing over 20 people, detectives froze. They had been expecting one murder, a single act of violence. But now, sitting before them, this young woman from Alaska claimed to be a serial killer, guided by Satan himself. She spoke softly, almost proudly, about her supposed victims, people from Alaska, Texas, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. She described rituals, how she would lure her targets, and how she felt a dark satisfaction after each kill. The officers exchanged glances, unsure whether to believe her or to think they were talking to a master manipulator. But as the days went by, the details didn't add up. There were no missing person reports that matched her timeline, no bodies, no evidence. Investigators from multiple states searched records, checked travel histories, even dug into cold cases, nothing connected to Miranda's claims. It became clear that her 22 victims might not exist at all. Maybe she was lying. Or maybe, as one detective said, she believes her own lies. Miranda insisted she wasn't crazy, that she was chosen, that she had been part of a satanic cult since she was 13. She said her first kill was her initiation, that she lured a man who tried to assault her and ended his life as a sacrifice. But when pressed for names, dates, or locations, she hesitated, her confidence cracking. Elyett, her husband, told a different story. He admitted to helping restrain Troy LaFerrara but denied any talk of satanic rituals. "We were just doing what she wanted," he said. "I didn't believe in any devil stuff." The media, however, didn't care about doubts or details. They had found their headline, "The Craigslist Killer Bride." The story spread like wildfire, a young woman who killed for Satan, a modern-day angel of death. Photos of Miranda, smiling, calm, almost innocent, flooded every screen. Behind bars, Miranda played into the attention. She gave interviews, speaking about her dark past, her connection to evil, and her belief that she'd never be forgiven. Reporters couldn't decide whether she was insane, evil, or both. But to detectives, one thing became clear: Miranda Barbour was dangerous not just because of what she'd done, but because of what she could make people believe. Her lies blurred the line between truth and performance. Maybe there was no cult. Maybe there were number 22 victims. But in that small interrogation room, she had convinced everyone, even for a moment, that the devil was sitting right across from them. When the trial began, the courtroom was packed, reporters, families, and curious onlookers all wanting to see the Craigslist Killer bride face judgment. Miranda Barbour sat quietly beside her husband, Elyett, dressed in prison orange, eyes steady, expression unreadable. The evidence was clear. The blood, the knife, the text messages that lured Troy LaFerrara to his death, all of it painted a chilling picture. After months of hearings and delays, both Miranda and Elyett finally stood before the judge and pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. There would be no appeals, no second chances, no parole. The judge sentenced them both to life in prison without the possibility of release. As the words were read aloud, Miranda didn't cry. She simply nodded, like she had expected it all along. But what disturbed people most was what she said afterward. In interviews from behind bars, Miranda repeated the same story, that she had killed before, and that if she ever got out, she might do it again. "I know what I am," she told one reporter. "And I'm not sorry." Psychologists were divided. Some believed she was a true psychopath, unable to feel guilt or empathy, using lies as tools to control and fascinate. Others thought she was a pathological liar, weaving a story so dark and grand that even she believed parts of it. One expert said, "She's not just telling lies, she's living inside them." Her husband Elyett stayed mostly silent, spending his days in quiet isolation. In one rare statement, he said, "If I could take it back, I would." But she was the one who wanted blood. Whether he was protecting himself or speaking the truth, no one really knew. As the years passed, Miranda's legend grew online. True crime forums, podcasts, and documentaries picked apart her story. Was she America's youngest female serial killer, or a woman who built a myth around one terrible act? The truth may never be fully known. But one thing is certain, the murder of Troy LaFerrara was real. A man's life was taken by a couple who turned a simple Craigslist meeting into a night of horror. And Miranda Barbour, the girl once called the Craigslist Angel of Death, became more than just a criminal. She became a modern cautionary tale, about trust, deceit, and the monsters that sometimes wear the most ordinary faces. Even now, behind bars, she smiles when asked if the devil made her do it. Because for Miranda, maybe the scariest part is, she never needed the devil's help at all.